I am here with another gentleman who has a great story to tell. He's the executive director of Life After Next and a member of the San Francisco Reentry Council Sentencing Commission. And he also has just got appointed to San Francisco Sheriff Department's Oversight Board member. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have William Palmer II. William, how you doing?
I'm doing magnificent and amazingly beautiful.
Good, good, good. Now, you have a great story to tell. Why don't you share it with everybody, and also share your locations as well?
All right. Uh, I'm from. I'm originally from Riverside, California, but I've been living in San Francisco for the last 3 years. Actually, March 11th made my third year anniversary in San Francisco, which was also the day that I drove through Gate 9 at Solano State Prison and was picked up by my family, my cousins, and driven to San Francisco's TL, Tenderloin. And that was Geo, which was in the heart of the bowels of San Francisco. And that's where they wanted me to start from.
Okay.
And because of that, that reentry process, along with a pro agent that made my life a living hell and put me in jail 3 times because he thought I cheated my way out of the system. And so, in order for you to understand why he thought that, let me start where this all began. And so, my mother got off her backside and went to junior college and got a career in child care services and moved us to a more wealthy neighborhood. So we were just wealthy enough to be the poorest people in this community. And that was a culture shock for me. And I decided that I wanted to live that lifestyle without earning it. And so one day I decided uh, that I was going to rob a man. This man happened to be an off duty Riverside police detective sergeant. And he ended up shooting at me 15 times, hit me one in the knee. My gun didn't have any bullets in it. I did wear a ski mask. And at 17 years old, the court deemed me eligible to be tried as an adult. And once I got into the system, I knew that education was the key. I was a functional illiterate. I could barely read and write. And so it took me from February all the way to September to finally pass my first spelling test with an A. And I thought that was the most amazing thing in my life. After that, I went to Youth Authority. The facility was called YTS, Youth Training Center, right? No, this was a indoctrination into prison. This was prison training center. And there, though, I started my activism. I was elected by my peers to be on what we call the student council, where I met with the administrative body and then communicated what the general population needs and desires were. So I had no idea that that was going to be my life, but that was the beginning. I then transferred to the adult prison where I was definitely targeted right off. But by the grace of God, I had intervention by some OGs that said, this guy is untouchable. And I had no idea why. It just was so. And at that point, I was elected to what we call the Men's Advisory Council. And that, again, put in a role by my peers to represent their most of the time complaints but concerns with the living conditions inside the prison with the administration. Make a long story short, I went through the Five Ventures program, which is an entrepreneur and leadership program, and I did very successful. I then began to understand that my life purpose was going to be somewhere between business and social activism. When I was in YA, I studied the book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X, and that's what sparked me to understand my consciousness as who I am as a Black American, and eventually, some years later, became a practicing Muslim. Um, Once I woke up one day after my parents had passed, I fell into a depression, deep depression, and I was 45 years old in a blink of an eye. And I decided that if I don't become an advocate of my own freedom, that I was going to die in here as the Riverside court system had designed it to be. They had promised me 9 years, but every time I went to this board of parole hearings in California, they decided that they were going to try everything that they could to keep me in there. And I'm not an abnormal situation. I am the norm with quite a few men that's in prison that doesn't need to be there. And so there was a law firm called Melvin and Myers that had been doing pro bono work on my case for at least over 10 years at this point. And I decided that I said, I'm going to help you help me. And I went and studied at the feet of men who knew law from studying it because of the decades that they had spent in there. And I went back to them and we devised a plan. I said, Judge Klein said he holds jurisdiction over the Henry Butler case. And to make a long story short, we got in through the back door. Nobody said anything. I was always on pins and needles that someone's going to discover that we're in a district that we didn't belong in. He made a ruling in my case called Henry Palmer. You can look it up, 2015 and 2018, where he put teeth to a newly acted bill called SB 260, was a youth offender bill that was supposed to give us meaningful release, a chance at a meaningful release. But instead, the oppressive and illegal criminal board of parole hearings had decided to continue to give us regular adult hearings because nobody was putting them in check. Well, Henry Palmer had put them in check and they had finally met their match. And at that time, they had to now decide at the time of our arrest, were we functioning as youth? And if so, then at this time, we were supposed to be released. So I got released along with hundreds, if not thousands of people behind me. And my release into society, the parole agent just so happened to be a former CO at Solano State Prison, where I was held for 18 years of my 32 years, which 23 of those years was constitutional excessive punishment deemed by the court. He deemed that to be cheating my way out of the system. So he tried to put me in jail 3 times. And that's what we came about understanding life after next. My co-founder, Michelle Wood, and I experienced the difficulty of reentry. And we wanted to make sure that we created a holistic form of reentry. And so our plan is that the moment of conviction, we want to make contact with that person and help them write their life plan on day one so they'd be ready at the last day for reentry. So reentry starts on day one. And then we decided that each person was going to be individualized because they always wanted to put me in a category with people that didn't match who I was as a personality. And so therefore I was always punished because I wasn't a yes man or I didn't bow down to the type of laws that were very oppressive, and I fought my way out. And so we want to open up theme facilities. And the one theme facility that we're working on today, which is going to be held a fundraiser on April 2nd, you can visit our website called lifeafternext.org and look for the events that's going to be held April 2nd. And we're going to purchase our first building, hopefully, that's going to be an Artivist hotel, Studio Artivist, which is anyone who has a purpose in life that is in the arts and to express their view of how society is in a social justice way. They can come there. Those in San Francisco who is finding struggle with housing or being unhoused that are artists, we want to invite some of them as well. And we want to create this formula of great artists' minds collaborating with each other and create something that we haven't seen since the Harlem Renaissance. And that's our plan. And we're going to have other theme houses for people who are in vocations like construction trades, like engineers, electricians, carpentry, so on and so forth. They get together and be able to work together. And tech facilities. We want a business owner facility. If you don't want to work for somebody, you want to start your own business. We're going to call it the Black House Hotel because we want those people to come. They ain't got to worry about anything. Just do what you do. It's going to be for those who have like that genius touch. And I've met so many inside. And so this is how we look at reentry. We're reimagining reentry. And we're hoping that people out there who hear what we're doing, our vision and our mission, would like to support us and give whatever donations that they can, whatever support. We have 3 wonderful employees that we just brought on, Isaac, Rayvon, and Vince, and they are volunteering their time until we get the funding that we need to actually pay them. And that's the kind of support that we have. We have partnerships with people like Hip Hop for Change, that's out of Oakland, who are doing free concerts for our fundraisers and partnering up with us because they believe in our mission. We have so many partnerships with what we call pre-trial. and we're getting ready to be onboarded by CDCR. So we're moving in the right direction. We have a lot of support, and I just want to continue to give shout out to O'Melvin Myers and Jeff Yost, my sister Megan Halfstad, who was a poodle in my first hearing, and by the time I worked with her after learning my law, she was a champion pit bull and went in there and tore they ass up. And I owe these people my freedom. But once I got out here, I also owe a lot of support to a lot of things to my community. Unfortunately, and I have to say this because truth will set you free. My Black community and my Muslim community gave me very little support. It was individuals who put $200 in my hand or gave me a place to stay and encouragement. But it has been people of other communities that has truly given us the support, like Caroline Guzman and Raju Manhu of the Public Defender's Office, Chelsea Bodine of the District Attorney's Office, Sheriff Miyamoto of the Sheriff Department, who we work to close down jails, get free phone calls, and who's the head of San Francisco Jail Justice Coalition. She's an everyday hero, and all these people don't look like me. They don't worship like me. And so I want to say to our community that it's going to take law enforcement to make changes that I help make, and make sure that they make those systematic changes and it ain't just another face of the same old white supremacist oppression. And it's going to take our community to get out of the stagnant place that they may be in and understand that they have to support those who have shown the ability to fight for oppression, to fight against oppression, and fight for the freedom of their people. And if you don't get behind us, then who are you behind? And so we want to get rid of the stale organizations and movements that keep us in the same place and start getting behind. I believe that restitution and reparations should go to those who are formerly enslaved in today's time. We ain't got to go back to Nat Turner and my girl Harriet Tubman. We can start right here today in 2022. Those who've been freed from constitutional excessive punishment and who's been under the sentencing scheme of the Board of Parole Hearings and parole term hearings, that they should be getting the funding to do the work that they're so close to being the problem. They should have the solution. So that's what we're about. We're about putting people in political positions that are social justice movers. We're tired of the same old Republicans and Democrats moving in the same old ways and finding ourselves in the same old places. So we're doing the work. We're pushing policy for youth offenders. The board has already went back and trying to keep more youth offenders in prison, ignoring my regulations, Emory Palmer. So we team together with students from the University of San Francisco. Shout out to Ron and Gabe, and to my girl Deborah from Champions for Justice out of Oakland. We get to putting together a legal team that's going to chew some butt, and we're going to go to Sacramento and talk about the infractions that they are still committing. If you don't hold them accountable, they will still continue to do the same thing, even while they're talking about equity and inclusion. We tired of that. We're not going for that. If you don't make us a priority of your campaign, we are withholding our votes from you. So we are going to strengthen Proposition 17 that gives former incarcerated people the right to vote, and we're going to unionize them, and we're going to say, if you do not include us on your platform, we will hold our 50,000 plus votes away from you, and we would even give them to your competitors if we have to prove a point. Because there needs to be a party within the Democratic Party that is a social justice party like the Tea Party of the Republicans. And it's time. If you don't demand what you want, power will not concede. And so I am a son of Malcolm X. I am a soldier of Harriet Tubman, and it's time to do what we got to do.
I tell you what, who can argue with a vision like that? And that is that's some words for these politicians. William Palmer, I want to thank you for coming on this show and just keeping it real.
Thank you. I appreciate you, bro.
Not a problem. We'll have you back.
Peace be upon you all.